When we fail to follow through on a personal commitment, the failure usually feels physical. We experience it as a heavy weight, slipping from an exhausted grip, and we conclude that our willpower simply gave out. This interpretation presumes the human mind possesses a localized willpower organ, a muscle that we just didn't flex hard enough. The scientific evidence points to a completely different mechanical failure. Philosopher Paul Thagard identifies this breakdown as an intention-action gap. Your conscious intention to act doesn't fail because of weakness. It gets actively disrupted by unconscious, automatic responses to your environment. When you encounter cognitive load, fatigue, or stress, your brain abandons the abstract plan and reacts to immediate stimuli. To solve this, researchers divide goal pursuit into two distinct frameworks. Content theories focus on the thematic properties of the goal itself, what the individual desires and why. Self-regulation theories, however, ignore the desire completely. They focus exclusively on the implementational friction of initiating the action. This diagram illustrates the structural syntax of those two approaches. A standard goal intention is formatted simply as, I intend to achieve X. An implementation intention rewrites that commitment into a conditional trigger. I intend to perform action Y when situation Z is encountered. Crossing the intention-action gap requires abandoning the first formula and adopting the second. You have to shift the burden of execution away from your conscious desire and program your environment to cue the behavior automatically. Mastering execution is not a matter of gathering more motivation or trying harder. It is a matter of rewriting the syntactic format of your commitments, so your brain no longer has to deliberate in the moment. To test this syntax in the real world, psychologists Peter Gallwitzer and Veronica Brandstatter conducted a field study tracking university students over their Christmas break. Participants named two personal projects they intended to finish during the holidays, one easy and one difficult. This chart graphs final completion rates. Easy goals on the left show high success. Adding an implementation intention, the white bar, yields negligible improvement. Difficult projects differ drastically. Bare intentions plummeted to 22%, but specifying when and where to work nearly tripled success to 62%. At this stage, you might spot an obvious confounding variable. Because participants self-selected to make a detailed plan, students who wrote specific triggers might simply possess a higher baseline motivation. The researchers controlled for this by measuring the perceived importance of the goals. Statistical analysis proved there was no reliable correlation between caring about a project and actually finishing it once the implementation intention was isolated. While this field data establishes a massive correlation between situational triggers and task success, the correlational nature of the study lacks the strict experimental manipulation required to prove that the planning syntax actually caused the execution. To prove exact causality, Gallwitzer and Brandstatter designed a second experiment. They assigned a difficult task, writing a detailed report about their Christmas Eve leisure time to be completed during the 2-day holiday window. This time, the independent variable was strictly controlled. Half the group was simply assigned the report. The other half was instructed to formulate a situational trigger, writing down exactly which room they would sit in and at what hour. This table logs the compliance rates. Only 32% of the control group successfully mailed in the report on time. In the experimental group, 71% successfully executed the assignment. Because the researchers assigned the same undesirable task to both groups, the motivation confound is completely eliminated. The experimental group didn't want to write the report any more than the control group did, completely leveling the emotional playing field. Researchers tracked the latency between the holiday and the report's postmark. The control group took 7.7 days to initiate action, while the experimental group executed in just 2.3 days. This discrepancy isolates the intervention's mechanical advantage, immediate initiation upon encountering the target window. Programming a situational cue directly causes a drastic reduction in action latency. It proves that reliable execution is a function of calculated timing rather than an application of raw cognitive effort. To observe how latency reduction occurs at the microcognitive level, researchers moved into a controlled laboratory setting. They needed to measure the immediate seizing of fleeting opportunities down to the exact second. In Study 3, participants were seated in front of a video monitor, playing a series of controversial statements. During the first pass, They pressed a button to physically mark specific timestamps, representing good opportunities to counter-argue. During a secondary viewing, participants had to execute in real time. They were instructed to hit a button to stop the tape and verbally deliver their counter-argument whenever they felt the moment was right. The primary variable was the time variance between the marked opportunity and actual verbal intervention. The experimental group exhibited a significantly tighter reaction time. Linking an argument to a precise cue creates a neurological bypass, effectively pulling the action out of the subject instantly. This stimulus-response loop perfectly mirrors the automatic elicitation of a hardwired habit, where a familiar situation instantly triggers a practiced behavior. Implementation intentions act as synthetic habits. They artificially generate the efficiency of a routine, allowing the environment to initiate behavior without conscious intent. By synthesizing the data from these 3 studies, we can map a complete architectural model of human volition. A bare goal intention relies entirely on the conscious executive node, quickly becoming overloaded by distractions and internal fatigue. The computational bypass formats the intention as an if-then rule, routing the signal around the overloaded node, so an environmental cue directly triggers the action response. You are actively delegating executive control away from your own internal state and assigning it to the surrounding environment. There is, however, a critical limitation to this bypass. In the 3rd study, the researchers tracked a subset of participants who scored low on baseline interest and knowledge regarding the debate topic. For those low-knowledge participants, implementation intentions completely failed and actually resulted in lower-quality arguments. Linking an opportunity to an action provides zero benefit if you lack the semantic knowledge or physical skill to execute that action in the first place. The rule of the model is strict. A cognitive trigger cannot elicit a behavioral response that the subject does not already possess in their repertoire. Crossing the intention-action gap requires abandoning the reliance on emotional motivation. If you want to guarantee follow-through, you must build the underlying skill, and then adopt the precision of coding executable situational triggers.